To be an advanced speaker of English, or being fluent, requires having been taught the features of English such as how to use be, been, and being. I'm going to teach you 40 ways in which we use these words in English grammar, covering these features here. Let's start with modals. In this picture, there is a man who is dreaming about passing his IELTS examination. This is how he would appear. I would something so happy if that happened. That's what he thinks. But do we fill the gap with be, been, or being? The answer here is be. I would be so happy if that happened. If we need to use the verb to be after a modal, then it needs to be in its infinitive form. I would be. And in this case, it's followed by either an adjective or a noun. I would be so happy. I would be a hero. In this picture, you can see a crocodile chasing a swimmer. Now, this is someone imagining the situation. I would something swimming quickly if a crocodile was behind me. How do we fill the gap? Again, with be. I would be swimming quickly if a crocodile was behind me. This is the continuous form with modals. Remember, we make the continuous form in English by using the verb to be, but after a modal, it stays in the infinitive form. So it is actually be. I would be swimming. This runner should have finished last, but someone else gave up before the end. So she is celebrating and she says to the other people when she's finished, I would have something last if another runner hadn't give up. How do we complete this? Well, this time it's with been. Why? Because it's modals with perfect verbs. Here it's in the perfect form. It's something that happened between the past up to now, but using a modal in front. I would have been. I must have been. I could have been. Okay, that's modals. What about the continuous form of English more generally then? First of all, the present perfect continuous. This man was thinking in the past and thinking up to the present. And he says, I have something thinking about the past. Is it be, been, or being? This one is been, again, because it's the perfect form. I have been thinking. So to make the continuous form with the present perfect, we use I have and then the past participle of the verb to be, which is been, and then the ing form of the verb. The past perfect continuous is similar. I had been thinking about the past. What about other uses of the present continuous? Often we'll use the present continuous for activities that are in progress at that time. I am running. She was swimming. But what about this one? This is to do with behavior. There's a lady on the left who's really, really cross with the lady who's driving because the lady who's driving has a mobile phone, which is really careless. So the lady on the left says, you are something careless. Is it be? Is it been? Is it being? This one is being. You are being careless. And when we use the present continuous for someone's behavior, then we actually use the verb to be in the ing form. The past continuous is the same. You were being careless when you used your phone while you were driving a few minutes ago. How about imperatives? Here's a lady who's a firefighter and there's a fire behind and someone who's near the fire shouts out, something quick, the fire is getting worse. Which word fills the gap? It's be. Be quick. In other words, this is how you need to behave. Quick, please. That's what we want from you. It's the same when we have do at the beginning. Do be quick. The fire is getting worse. When we use do before be here, that emphasizes it more. Please do be quick. It's really, really important. So remember, imperatives is when you're giving orders to other people. We put a verb at the beginning. We don't use the subject. If we had used the subject, it would have been You be quick. But here we just go straight to the verb. Be quick. With the passives, there are a number of rules for how we use be, been, or being in the passive form. Let's start off by going back to the modals. Here's a book to do with grammar, and this is true, isn't it? We need to understand grammar points before speaking. The grammar point must something understood before it can be used in speech. Is it be, been, or being? Well, here it is be. The grammar point must be understood. That's the passive form. Why? Because after the modal, we use the infinitive. It's repeated in the second clause before it can be used. Remember, in the passive, the order of events is switched. What we really mean here is you must understand the grammar. Switch you and the grammar around. The grammar point must be understood by you. And when we switch the order of the subject and the object, so the first words in the sentence take the action, we use this passive form where we have the verb to be followed by the past participle. But after the modal, the verb to be is not conjugated into the present form or the past form. It stays in the infinitive, must be understood, can be used. What about with imperatives then? This news or the news is not to something missed. Imagine you've got this breaking news, this really important story, and someone tells you, watch the story. It's going to be extremely important. What's the word that fills the gap? It's be here. The news is not to be missed. In other words, you don't miss the news. And we can also use the passive with a to plus infinitive phrase. Now, here is someone who is desperate. They're on their knees. They want to play for the team at school, and they're speaking to the person who has the power to put them in the team. What do they ask, or what do they say they asked? They say this: I wanted to something asked to play for the team. What fills the gap here? It's be. I wanted to be asked to play for the team. In other words, I wanted the manager or the coach to ask me. So notice here that the passive does not go with wanted here. We've got two verb structures here. We've got wanted, and then we've got a second one, which is ask. But in the passive form, which part is the activity that happens? Wanted is not the activity, it's a desire. The actual activity is asked. So that's the bit that goes into the passive form when we switch the order. Because this sentence here doesn't mean that I asked, it means that I wanted someone to ask me. Switch that around and we have I wanted to be asked. Now, it's important to note here that wanted is followed by to plus infinitive, which we'll come to in a moment, and that affects the choice of the structure here. But after I wanted to, in the passive form, I wanted to be asked. What about the perfect passive simple? And this is a man who's got what he wanted. I have something asked by the coach to play for the team. The meaning here really is the coach has asked me. But which form of to be do we use in that gap here? It is, I have been asked by the coach to play for the team. And with the passive, when it's with continuous forms, the tree is something knocked down today. So that's the passive structure. The original active structure is at the bottom. Someone is knocking down the tree today. When we switch that around, how do we get that continuous sense into this passive sentence? Well, this time we need to use being. The tree is being knocked down today. To make the passive form of to be, when it's continuous, then we have to make be a continuous verb. How do we do that? By saying is being or are being. Now, learning these advanced features of grammar is really useful if you're taking an English examination. And if you're thinking of taking the IELTS exam, either to get into university or access work in another country, then I have a course that is for you called my IELTS preparation course. There's a link in the description below this video, and it's got dozens of lessons that will help you with all of your skills in IELTS reading, listening, speaking, and writing. You can join that course straight away. Let's move on to gerunds and infinitives. Let's go back to that structure, verb to infinitive. Here's a man who has a dream to be doing what you can see in the picture. And he says this, I want to something an actor. Which word fills the gap? This one is be. When we have a verb that's followed by to plus infinitive, then if we need to use the verb to be as that to plus infinitive, then it stays to be. I want to be. Want is followed by to plus infinitive. Some verbs are followed by the bare infinitive, such as make. How does that affect the word we choose here? You will make us be late. That's what you say to someone who is behaving in such a way that is going to stop you getting there on time. You will make us be late. Now, you can leave out the word be here, actually, and just say you will make us late. But it's also correct to say you will make us be late. After verbs like make, we have the bare infinitive, so we would not use to. We can also use verb plus to plus infinitive in the perfect form. What does that do to the verb to be here? You appear to have something working hard. Perhaps in this picture, the manager is speaking to an employee, and the manager is very happy with the employee. So he says this, you appear to have something working hard. Thank you. How do we fill the gap? Here it's with been, because it's in the perfect form. So if we're using the perfect form, then after have, we will choose been. Now, some verbs are not followed by to plus infinitive. They're followed by a gerund. How does that affect the verb to be? This lady has made a good decision, and now she's sitting back and she's really happy with herself, and she thinks this, I enjoy something right. Be, been, or being. This one is being right. Why? Because verbs such as enjoy are followed by the gerund. Many feelings verbs are followed by a gerund if another verb comes after, but there's more than that. So you need to learn which verbs are followed by to plus infinitive, which verbs are followed by the gerund. If a verb is followed by to plus infinitive, and that needs to be the verb be, then use to be. I wanted to be. And if the verb is followed by the gerund, then use the ing form. I enjoy being. Now, what do we do with prepositions when we want to use the verb to be afterwards? Look at this cat here. Maybe there's a dog in the house and the cat's hiding. And the cat, if the cat could think in English, could think like this. I avoided detection by something quiet. Which word? Being. Why? Because after the preposition, we need the gerund form. Okay, what about participle phrases? Now we're starting to get quite complex. Let's start by looking at participle phrases when we're meaning in this state. This girl doesn't know the answer. So she tells the person who asks her, to something honest, I don't know anything. What goes in the gap here? To be honest, I don't know anything. So if we're making a participle phrase using, and we're trying to make the meaning in this state, so in the state of honesty, then we can use a to plus infinitive phrase here, to be honest. But we can also use the present participle with no change in meaning at all. Being honest, I don't know anything. And when we change to be into being, then it takes a noun quality here. So being honest, I don't know anything, exactly the same as to be honest. Sometimes the verb to be refers to someone's status. And we could put it at the start of a sentence in a present participle. Something the manager, I had to make the final decision. What goes here? Being. Being the manager. This is my status. I am the manager. And being the manager, because I'm the manager, I had to make the final decision. What about perfect participles? Having something selected for the team, she trained hard for the match. So here's the team. She was selected. Now she's going to train. The selection happens first, though. When we use having as the present participle, we refer to something before the main clause that affects the main clause. So she trained hard for the match is the main clause. Having something selected for the team, that's something before that affects it. What's the answer here? Having been selected for the team. So if you want to form the perfect participle, then we need to have been if we use the verb to be in any way. Now let's go back to that present participle and let's focus more on the use of be to convey the meaning of because. This man ran, but couldn't catch the train and now is going to miss the meeting along with a friend who's a woman who you can't see in this picture. And if we talk about the woman, we say something late, she missed the meeting. Really, this means because she was late. Which word goes in the gap? Being late. She missed the meeting. Because she was late, she missed the meeting. Now, the meeting finished. Look at what the lady's doing instead. The meeting, something finished. When she arrived, she went to the cafe instead. Now, this is where we have a subject in front of the present participle. The meaning is still because here. Which word fills the gap? Well, it's still being. The meeting being finished when she arrived, she went to the cafe instead. So we make the present participle in the same way, using being, but there's a subject that explains more about what is finished here. The meeting being finished when she arrived, she went to the cafe instead. So she arrived, she found the meeting was finished. Because of that, she went to the cafe. Well, that was really interesting. Stay with me as we look at uses of the verb to be when they follow the phrase be to. What do I mean by this? Well, we can have be to followed by an infinitive. Here we have a suitcase and a passport, and they belong to someone who's involved in global trading. The life of a global trader is to something ready to go anywhere. So is to comes from be to, but sometimes we'll use the verb to be after that little phrase. What goes here? Well, it's be. The life of a global trader is to be ready to go anywhere. And what about in the negative form here? Well, we can use negative followed by to, followed by this form of to be, meaning that you're predicting something. For example, this lady who takes photos of wildlife and finds lots of things out about wildlife. A newspaper article writes this: her contribution to wildlife is never to something forgotten. What goes in the gap? Her contribution to wildlife is never to be forgotten. Never to be forgotten. That is predicting the future. In the future, no one will forget. Never to be forgotten. And also after evaluative adjectives. Here's a clock. We need to look at the clock if we can make sure that we are punctual for meetings. Another way to say this is, it is important to something on time for all the meetings. What goes in the gap? Again, it's be. It is important to be on time. Now, important is a kind of evaluative word. It is important. It's evaluating the quality of the rest of information. We look at the rest of the information and we add something at the beginning to say, it is important, extra information evaluating everything else. And after such a phrase with to, then if you need to use the verb to be, it stays in the infinitive form, be. It is important to be on time for all the meetings. Past participles take a form of the verb to be. Let's find out. Now, the most commonly used form of to be as a past participle is when we mean go. I have something to London. What is it? I have been to London. When you say I have been to London, it means you go there in the past and you come back. Both things happen. It's not the same as gone. Gone means that you go and you're still there. So be means go there and return in the past, at some time up to the present. But there are other ways that we can use this word been as a past participle with slightly different meanings. We can also use it to mean visited at some point. Have you been to London? We're not focusing on whether they have gone and returned here. We just mean at any point in time. Were you in London? Have you been to London? We can also use it to mean come and then return. Has the doctor come? She's already been. That means in the past she came and then she left again. So similar to go, but slightly different because we're using the verb come here. We could also use it as a past participle for states. I have been an actor before. This man on the screen, not me. I have not been an actor. But here, I have been introduces a state that is true for the subject. I have been an actor. Who has been an actor? I. And we can use the present perfect for experiences with been, often with this combination here. I know you've been through some difficult times. If you've been through something, it means you've had an experience of something, often used for an experience that's been hard. We can also use the word there after been, and the combination means in that situation. So this lady is saying, I understand. I've been there. I have been in that situation that you're in. I have felt what you felt. I've experienced what you've experienced. And it can simply mean existed or behaved. So looks like a counselling session, and the lady who's leading it says, has he been unkind for long? Maybe they're talking about a man in her life who has been unkind, and that's why she's come for counselling. That's how he's been all this time. So been here is referring to the man's behaviour or the man's state over a period of time. Now let's look at be when we use it in a noun form. Sometimes we use be in a subject position when the subject is a state. So, to something the best requires hard work. Requires is the verb here. The subject is the bit before. How do we fill the gap? Well, it's with be. To be the best requires hard work. So here we have an infinitive phrase that forms the subject of the sentence. And because we're focusing on the state of the best, we use to be at the beginning. Here's a slightly different structure. It requires hard work to something the best. We fill the gap with be again. What do we mean here, though? It is a dummy subject. It is a word we often use when the subject comes either before the sentence, in which case it's a referring device to the sentence before, or when it refers to something that comes later in the same sentence, and that's when it's the dummy subject. It requires hard work to be the best. What it really means is to be the best requires hard work. It means the same as what we've just seen, but it's in a slightly different order. Now, this looks the same at the beginning, but look closely. They required her work to be the best. This isn't referring to they. This is referring to her work. So it's an object complement here. They is the subject, the verb is required. Her work is the object, and to be the best is now describing her work. So to be the best is the complement of her work. It's the object complement. Again, use be. Going on a slightly different route now, sometimes a form of the verb to be can be used in compound nouns. Human something have lived on earth for as long as people know about. What goes in the gap? Human beings. It's a compound noun of two words. Human and beings. It means existing. They are. They exist in the world. Humans who are in the world have lived on earth for as long as people know about. But we consider human beings to be one noun. And let's finish off with something that is not used so commonly in English nowadays. It's the present subjunctive. Here's a finger pointing at you. Maybe it's someone who is telling you that you must go to a meeting. But we can word this in a different way. It is important that you something present at the meeting. Now, normally you would expect us to say, it is important that you are present at the meeting. But when it comes to instructions, we can use this subjunctive form and use be. It is important that you be present at the meeting. So it's not used much, but it is still sometimes used in a formal way. When we're giving orders or instructions out, then you might use the subjunctive form and use be instead of are here. Don't forget, if you are studying for an English examination such as IELTS, I have got lots more to help you. I have a number of courses on the Udemy platform. One of them is an IELTS preparation course. There's also a Cambridge C1 preparation course, and it contains guidance on grammar, vocabulary, speaking skills, writing skills, reading and listening skills to help you get the best grade possible. So click on the link below this video. You can start that course today and help you get the best marks with your English.